Time now for the most listened to talk show in Vegas.
You think we're fighting, and I think we're finally talking.
Talking with those on the right, the left, and everywhere in between.
Quiet. Shut up and let me answer, okay?
Answer.
Pot him down, please, because this is another MAGA who doesn't understand how to have a conversation with somebody.
It's Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro.
I'm kind of a big deal.
This show will make you laugh, make you cry, and it might raise Brian's blood pressure.
You know what, dude? People like you, all you do is make excuses for the orange turd, and I've had it.
All the smash and grabs and everything. Yeah, tell me, what race is doing that, first of all?
Okay, so you want to be a racist now. Okay.
Race is doing it. Seen it on the news?
I don't watch Klan TV like you do, sir.
Buckle up because it's Pushing the Limits with Brian Shapiro.
You're different. I like you.
Now, here's Brian.
What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. It is Pushing the Limits. Oh, yeah. And we got a lot to talk about today. A lot to get to. And had a great weekend. I hope everybody else did there. You could be listening on the Occupy Democrats Network, on the Washington Press Network, on the FMAM dial. It could be on my YouTube page, ever growing, at PTL Radio Show, on X at PTL Radio Show. One of the fastest growing audiences, I think it's fair to say, in the country. And so glad that you take the opportunity to watch me every day. We got some great guests lined up for you today. Coming up here in just a few minutes, a self-described diehard Donald Trump supporter is going to be joining us. His name is Trent Leisy, and he is run for Congress and the State House in Colorado. He's going to be joining us in just a couple minutes, so I know this is going to be a really good conversation. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we're going to be joined by former Nevada District Attorney David Roger, a Republican. I'm going to ask him about the legal problems facing Donald Trump and many other issues. He's going to be joining us in studio. We got some great guests lined up the remainder of the week. Don Lemon is going to be joining us on the show this week. He's got a new book out. That's going to be a lot of fun. Brian Tyler Cohen's going to be joining us on the show. Lev Parnas is going to be joining us on the show. Anna Braga is going to be joining us on the show. So we got some great guests lined up for you this week. And certainly today is no exception to that. I just want to get this out of the way to start because, I grew up enjoying Janet Jackson. I enjoyed her music, and I've seen her in concert multiple times, and I've always enjoyed watching her perform. And she made some controversy over the weekend with some idiotic and ignorant comments that Kamala Harris somehow is not black, that her father is white. Now, we know that's not true, and we know that that's a lie. But what makes this story even worse is that she's doubling down on it. Apparently, somebody in her orbit, one of her managers, told the New York Post that he's the one who issued the apology, and then she got upset at him because she's not apologizing for what she said, and she fired him. I got to tell you something. When you have a platform that big, and Janet Jackson has millions of followers, she has a huge platform, and you say something that stupid, my thoughts on Janet Jackson have completely changed. I got to be completely honest with you. My thoughts on Janet Jackson now are completely different than they were a week ago because it's pure ignorance. If you don't like some of Harris's positions on some issues and you want to talk policy, okay, great. That's a fair conversation. I might not agree with you on a lot of it, but that's a fair conversation to have, and let's have that conversation. But the fact that somebody with that kind of platform would say something like that, and why? Why is she saying something like that? Well, because Donald Trump started it. That's why. It's the same ignorant people, right, that are talking about pets being eaten, right? It's the same sort of rhetoric. People believe it if you say it enough times, even though it's not true. And it's extremely frustrating to me. But anyway, to talk about this topic and many others, I have all sorts of different people on this show. Republicans, Democrats, independents. I love a good conversation. I always like to give people an opportunity to hear from them. And this is no exception. So the gentleman that we have on the show right now is a self-described diehard Donald Trump supporter. He also ran for Congress and the State House in Colorado recently. He's worked in agriculture for the past 20 years, and I certainly appreciate his service to this country as a Navy veteran as well. His name is Trent Leisy, and he joins us right now on the show. Trent, thank you so much for joining us. I really do appreciate you being here. How are you?
Good. Thank you, Brian, for having me on your show. It's an honor to be here with you and discuss politics. So.
Yeah, and I appreciate you being here. We have a mutual friend that appeared on this show, and he recommended you. And I said, great. And even though, as you probably know, I'm not a Donald Trump supporter, I always appreciate it when people are willing to come on this show, and have a good conversation. So thank you for that, and thank you for your service. So tell me, I guess to start, the big question, you are a self-described diehard Donald Trump supporter. Tell me why.
Look, I've been a diehard Trump supporter since The Apprentice. I love the fact that he was in entertainment. I like the fact that he is, I like the fact he's not a politician. And I think that our country has gotten to the point where we don't need politicians. We don't need politicians trying to run this country. And so Donald Trump came in and looked at it more as a business guy and said, what do I need to do to fix this country? And that's what it is. Obviously, he's not politically correct. And he doesn't need the money. He doesn't need the special interest groups or anything like that. He doesn't need that. So that's why I like him. I mean, I think he's a very well-spoken guy. I apologize about the lighting here. So
no, that's okay. Let me ask you a question about the money. Let me push back. If he doesn't need the money, then why is he asking for your money? Why is he selling Bibles? Why is he doing that sort of stuff if he doesn't need the money?
Yeah, Brian, what I mean is that he doesn't need the big corporate money. He doesn't need the special interest group money. He is a true grassroots guy that goes straight to the people and says, hey, I can do better with your money as a candidate than, let's say, donating it to a PAC or donating it to your state Republican Party or the National Republican Party.
What would you say to somebody that would say he can do, as you're talking about money, yet he put us $8.4 trillion in debt? What would you say to somebody that will say, wait a second, he got us $8.4 trillion in debt. Is he really as good with money as you think he is? What would you say to that, Trent?
Well, I would say, look at the Biden administration. Every 6 months we go $1 trillion more into debt. So that's $2 trillion a year. So, with President Trump, he came into office with a depleted military. And so he needed to bolster our military presence. And, then we had, unfortunately, the COVID situation. And that obviously, affected our economy, affected, how much money that, the government needed to put forth to get us through COVID.
Do you think he did a good job handling COVID?
I feel like Trump's damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. And I don't think it doesn't matter what he did. I think there's going to be somebody that's not happy with what he did. I felt like he did an okay job. I thought he did good. I mean, I don't like Dr. Fauci. I think that was a mistake to keep him on board. But, he listened to his advisors, and I think he did the best that he could do. I think we've learned a lot. And if this ever happens again, which I hope it never does, I hope that, we wrote a playbook from COVID to say, okay, this is what you need to do if this ever happens.
The Obama administration actually gave them the playbook and they didn't use it. But okay, so I guess we could agree to disagree on that. I think per capita, we went one of the worst countries in the world when it came to the death rate. He talked about, 15 cases down to 0. It's going to be gone by Easter. He talked about injecting yourself with disinfectant. He turned his COVID press conferences into campaign rallies attacking Joe Biden. But we can agree to disagree on that. I guess you're a fan. Would you describe yourself as a family man, Trent? Or because I don't know a lot about your family.
Yeah, I'm a family guy. Oh, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, I appreciate that. And as I mentioned again, because I think this is very important, I respect anybody's service to this country, and you're certainly a hero for that. I wanted to ask you a question, and I think you probably know what I'm going to ask you. As someone who served this country honorably as you did, when he said he didn't respect John McCain because he was captured, what went through your mind when he said that?
I think Trump was acting out of emotions than actually personally saying that Trump's somebody that he's an emotional type guy, right? He's going to respond based on emotions. And yeah, I mean, it was John McCain honorably served this country a POW. Yes, he was. And I think Trump let his frustration of what John McCain and how John McCain treated him get in the way.
So is that somebody, and I hear what you're saying, but is that somebody you want to be the leader of the free world that can't control his emotions? Because it sounds like that's what you're saying. He let his emotions maybe get the best of him. Is that a fair assessment?
I think some cases he did. I don't think it's an everyday occurrence. But look, I just, what I love about Trump is he's not a politician. And I'm tired of politicians coming into office and, playing the political game where, you know, where, uh, where it's not really helping the people. And Trump came into this thing, only president that's come in losing money, net worth, and gaining money as president. And so when you ask about the emotional side of things, it doesn't really bother me. I understand why it bothers some people, but I just feel like there's a bigger picture ahead, and that's the country, and that's getting us to be the best and the number one country in the world, and we should be. We should be proud of that.
So Trent, I hate to do this to you, but it sounds like you have a little bit of static on your end. My producer is saying, would it be okay if you maybe just did a restart, or because I want to make sure everybody hears what you have to say. And I just, on your side, I hear a little bit of static. I don't know if you hear that.
I don't hear any static at all. Do you want me to close it out and start over?
Would that be okay? I'm sorry to ask you to do that live on the air, but I want to make sure people can hear you loud and clear. Would that be okay, Trent?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay, yeah, just go ahead and restart it and then join the link again, because I want to continue this conversation with you. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Trent. Trent Leisy is joining us. If you're just joining us to the show, he is a self-described diehard supporter of President Donald J. Trump. He ran for Congress and State House in Colorado. We're getting into some good conversation. I like to dissect why people are diehard Donald Trump supporters. Are you okay with this? Are you okay with that? And then I'll get to criticisms from him when it comes to the Biden administration, when it comes to Kamala Harris. We'll get to all that stuff. But my last question was about his handling of COVID. My last question, that should be before that, actually. My last question was actually about Donald Trump's statements when it comes to John McCain. Look, this is a guy who served the country. He said it doesn't bother him. He said he's just acting out of emotions. Now, listen, I will agree to disagree with him that I know the leader of the free world. I want that person to be able to control their emotions. So at a minimum, he's admitting that, well, maybe he let his emotions get the best of him. But joining us right now back on the line, Trent, can you hear us okay?
Yeah, I can hear you guys fine. So hopefully
you sound great. You sound great. Loud and clear, my friend. I really do appreciate you doing that. All right, so let's talk about the legalities. And then I want to get to policy. I want to ask you your thoughts on the Biden administration and, of course, your criticisms of Kamala Harris. You're a staunch Republican, so I'm sure you have many. I do want to get to those. But sticking to Trump for a moment, does it bother you that he's a 34-count felon? Does it bother you that he's a liable sexual abuser? Does it bother you that over 25 women have accused him of sexual assault or rape, including his ex-wife in court documents? You're a family man. Does any of that stuff bother you at all?
Well, I'll tell you what bothers me is the weaponization of the judicial system. And I think that's what we see here right now. And most of this, you talk about the 34 count felony, that was put on display, just within the last year, because the Democrats don't want Trump to run again. And so if you look at Letitia James and the fact that this Attorney General of New York completely ran on the fact that she wanted to get Trump. She didn't run on policy. She ran on the promise of getting Trump. And so
you think it was all fixed? You think it was all fixed and the jury was fixed and the judge was fixed and it was all a sham? Is that what I'm getting from you?
Yeah, I believe it was. And I believe it
is. So the jury's decision wasn't based on evidence. You think they were paid off by somebody, or explain that to me?
I just think people went in there with ideology and say, look, I hate Trump. I'm not going to be the one to vote in his favor. I think people, look, we're in a big political divide in our country. And so, whether or not we'll ever come together, I don't know. I hope we do it one day at some point, but we get into the point where you're not voting for the best interests of the country. You're voting against somebody because you don't like them or that you completely hate them. And so, the whole rape thing, I'm not saying he did it, and I'm not saying he didn't do it because I don't know, but it is, and people will say all day long that, I mean, anybody can come out and say they did something to somebody without any proof. We saw
Ri-
that with Kavanaugh.
Right, but Kavanaugh wasn't in a courtroom and he wasn't found liable of sexual assault, and a jury didn't make that decision based on evidence. And I would also say that, as far as I know, Kavanaugh had one woman that claimed that she was sexually assaulted. Donald Trump has over 25, including his ex-wife. So I guess my question is, at what point do you say, geez, maybe Donald Trump's not a good guy? Maybe he shouldn't have defied a subpoena for a year in the classified documents case. 5 kids with 3 different women. He's never been faithful to one of them. Maybe some of this stuff is true, or are you saying the fix is in with all of this stuff?
Oh, look, I just feel like we live in a society where it's easy to make a claim about sexual assault or whatever. And I apologize about the line here. So
That's okay. No problem.
that we live in a day and age where it's easy to make a claim against somebody. It's easy to say, hey, I have this proof, and they get, they go to a civil suit, and unfortunately a lot of times people just plead out just to get it over with. But again,
Right.
I'm not
Right.
saying he did it.
Right.
I'm not saying he didn't do it. So
All right. Well, again, we'll agree to disagree on that. But when you said it's easy to make a claim about something, so back in 2016 and 2015, Donald Trump was saying, as you recall, the elections are rigged. Hillary Clinton is going to cheat. The Democrats are going to cheat. And then something happened. Donald Trump won. And I've said all along, free and fair election. Hillary made her mistakes. She didn't resonate with with the majority, I guess, even though she won the popular vote. And Donald Trump won that election. I didn't hear anything about election integrity. I didn't hear anything about it being rigged. He won. And then the same thing happened in 2019 and 2020. And I correct me if I'm wrong, but you're one of those people that still believes that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. Why is it fair when he wins and not fair when he loses? I guess is my question to you.
well, I would say, look, Hillary Clinton to this day still will not concede that she lost the election.
Whoa. Wait a second. She conceded that night and the following morning. What do you mean she hasn't conceded?
No, she did several interviews after that where she believed that she won the election. I mean, look,
I don't know which.
They were going
I
around
don't-
saying saying Trump was in bed with Russia, and that's the only way he won the election. When we found out that it wasn't the case. In terms of 2020, yeah, I mean, if you look at the states in question, I mean, you have tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of votes coming in late at night when the facilities are supposed to be closed because they closed it down for the night, but yet ballots were still being counted. And look,
right, those were mail-in ballots. Right, correct. Those were mail-in ballots.
Even Trump's attorney general at the time did say, that there was fraud in the election.
Actually, that's not what he said. In fact, he said he thought Donald Trump's comments about the election being stolen were not true, and he was full of BS. He said that under oath, by the way, in a deposition. People around him. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm telling you, in a press conference days after the election, he said that he did believe that there was cheating in the election.
Okay, but Donald Trump said he won. There's no evidence of widespread voter fraud that could have changed the outcome of the election. Barr has already said that. Many others have said that. And nobody has, to this day, has shown evidence that there was widespread voter fraud that could have changed the outcome. So why does Donald Trump still believe that he won? And why do you think he still won, I guess is my question.
Well, I mean, you look at it, the Justice Department won't take it on. They won't look into it. Why won't they look into it? Because it's
look into what, though? But look into what? If there's no evidence of widespread fraud, why would they? And by the way, they've already said it's the most free and fair election we've ever had in this country. In order for, I mean, where's the there? When you say look at, doesn't there have to be something there?
Well, I think there was plenty of claims turned in to states, state elections office saying, hey, I think this wasn't done right, or I think that there were ballots that were mishandled, and nobody took it up. States didn't take it up. the federal government didn't take it up, and unfortunately, court systems and the Supreme Court said, we're not going to take a look at this. And so,
well, because there was no merit, meaning that there was no sufficient evidence to bring it, and nobody to this point has shown sufficient evidence. But we can agree to disagree on that. Let me ask.
I would argue that Joel Altman here in Colorado, who runs Conservative Daily, fights Dominion every single day, and he's got proof, as well as Tina Peters, that there was fraud in this election. So I would say, if you want to go and find the proof, go reach out to Joel Altman, talk to Joel Altman, and he'll show you the evidence he has. Mike Lindell, I feel like Mike Lindell's done a good job on exposing the voting system that we have.
Yeah. Trent, I hate to do this to you again, but you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know if it's because of your background. We're hearing a little bit of strange noise in the background. I don't know if there's anything you can do about that on your end.
I don't know, because I'm here. You can shut the background. Do you want to shut the
Yeah, I don't know if that will work, because I'd really like to continue the conversation. It's just really hard to hear you. And I don't know if it's because of your background. We're just hearing some static, right? I don't know if there's something you can do on your end to fix that. Live radio, everybody. You know what? Maybe it'd be better if he called in. I don't know. Unless, what do you think? All right. So the number to call in, why don't we have you call in, Trent, because the static, it's hard to hear you, and I want everybody to hear every word you say. 702-221-7283. I'll give out that number, Trent, live on the air here so that you can call in. 702-221-7283, Trent, if we can get you on the phone at least, so that way we don't hear the static in the background, because I want everybody to hear every word you say, and it's really hard to do that. So maybe if we can get Trent to call in again at that number, 702-221-7283. And we'll get Trent to call in, and hopefully we can get him on the line and we can continue the conversation and not clog up the phone lines with other people right now, so we can get Trent to call in. Again, if you're just joining us, we are speaking with Trent Leisy. He is a diehard supporter of President Donald Trump. He ran for Congress and State House in Colorado recently. And again, a self-described diehard Donald Trump supporter. And we're waiting for him to call in. And hopefully we can get him on the line. Again, there's a lot of other topics to get to with him, obviously. But I believe we have Trent on the line right now. Trent, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I really apologize.
That's okay. Not a problem, my friend. I appreciate you calling in, and we can hear you loud and clear now. All right, so we've touched on a number of issues. I guess this was my same question for you in regards to January 6th. Do you think January 6th happens if Donald Trump doesn't say the election was stolen like months leading up to it? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I mean, that's a hypothetical. That's playing Monday morning quarterback, because we don't know. I mean, we don't know if that would have happened. Obviously, he had the rally there. He did tell people to go down to the Capitol and
right.
The outcome of the election.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I have no idea if that would happen or not. If he hadn't said that.
I mean, you did reference Mike Lindell. To this day, he's shown no evidence of widespread voter fraud that could have changed anything. I would think, at this point, if the election was stolen, like Donald Trump believes, I guess he believes that, and you believe that, then we would have seen a there, right? That's just my personal opinion. We would have seen, some evidence that could have shown that, hey, this could have changed the outcome of the election. We just haven't seen that yet, Trent. And that's what's frustrating to me. And as you know, if he loses in November, I know you want him to win, but if he loses in November, he's not going to concede. You know that. You don't find that problematic?
Remove Trump off the ballot earlier this year because they're coming up with all these reasons as to why to do it, which, that is election interference.
Well, it didn't happen, though, right? Right. We can both say with certainty that that did not happen.
Colorado Supreme Court overruled the lower court,
Mhm.
which said no, keep him on the ballot.
Right.
The Colorado Supreme Court, 4-3, said no, we're overruling that. Yes, he's off the ballot, and then it had to go to the Supreme Court.
And he's on the ballot, right? But he's on the ballot, right? Right. That was just right.
Was to keep him off the ballot. So we don't have
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
voice to vote.
Well, you do though, because he's on the ballot.
Well, now that they were trying to
And they didn't, right? I understood, but they didn't succeed. And by the way, I didn't agree with that. As much as I am an anti-Trumper, and we might disagree on Donald Trump, I don't agree with taking him off the ballot. And he's on the ballot. You have your chance to vote for him, just like anybody else. Which I think is important for democracy. By the way, I might add. But the problem that I have, we agree there. But the problem that I have is no matter what happens, if Donald Trump loses, he will not concede. Hillary Clinton conceded. We had an insurrection on January 6th. He continues to lie about the 2020 election. And it's one thing if you support the man, you like his policies, and we can get into that. But I'm surprised that somebody like you, who I consider a hero, by the way, for serving and risking your life for this country, you don't have a problem with somebody who continues to this day attacking our democracy. I mean, that doesn't bother you at all?
Well, first of all, I'll say, that I wouldn't be okay with any state taking somebody off the ballot for political purposes. So, and I made that clear during my campaign that
Mm-hmm.
if it was Biden or whoever, I wouldn't agree with it. We need to have that voice. Everybody needs to have that voice to be heard.
And you will.
I will say that I would like Trump to focus on the issues and not focus on the past.
Well, I agree with you. I agree. I agree with you 100%. So hopefully we can be in agreement here. When he attacks her lack of blackness, or that she turned black, or when Republicans like J.D. Vance and Trump in Springfield, Ohio, talk about Haitian immigrants eating dogs, that's not talking about policy. Can we agree on that? That's not good for Trump. That's not good for the Republican Party, and it's not good for the country.
Well, I think what Trump means by the whole black comment is that she's in essence just using race as a reason to get ahead. And I think that's what.
Where's the evidence of that? Where's the evidence that she's using race to get ahead? This is a woman who has a college degree. She worked hard to get her college degree. She passed the bar. She became a prosecutor. She became, the DA out there. She became senator. I guess if you're going to make what I would consider a very serious claim that she got to where she is because of the color of her skin, which I believe that's what you're saying, don't you have to have actual evidence to back that up? Mm-hmm. Right.
Comment that needs to be made because I don't know her past and how she got to where she is. I just look at who she is as vice president and what she's done over the last 3.5 years, and I don't think that they've solved many problems that this country is facing.
All right. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about policy. And again, if you're joining us right now, his name is Trent Leisy. He ran for Congress and State House in Colorado recently, and he is a self-described diehard Donald Trump supporter. Criticisms of, well, let's start with Trump. Policies that you liked, things that you thought he did and that he will do in the future that you think is great for the country. Let's start there, and then we'll get to the Harris-Biden administration.
Yeah, I mean, I think Trump was one of the only presidents, in my opinion, that has gone after human trafficking the way he's gone after it. I liked his policies on the economy. It was the first time that our oil and gas reserves were, we were actually exporting oil instead of importing oil, which I think that we drill oil cleaner today than we ever have. I will say, as a veteran, I think he did very well for the vets. I like the fact that when he was president, I could go out and see my doctor, whatever doctor I wanted to see. And prior to that, under the Obama administration, I didn't have that opportunity. And now that Biden's in office, they've taken that ability away from me to be able to do that. I'm fortunate enough not to have a lot of health problems to be able to really complain about it. But, I don't feel like, I feel like he really treated our vets very well.
But
I feel like
I'm about the health care. Let's and then I'll let you continue. He said he had a replacement for Obamacare. They haven't replaced Obamacare, so I'm trying to understand what policies you're referring to. He said he had a replacement plan throughout his entire administration. It's coming in a couple weeks. It's coming in a month. It never happened. And then on a debate stage, he said he had concepts of a plan. So I'm just trying to understand what replacement plan you'd be referring to, because my understanding is there was no replacement plan for Obamacare.
No, I'm talking about the VA healthcare system is a lot different than private insurance.
Okay.
And so, it's actual VA doctors that you can go, I'm part of the VA health system, and it's very convoluted and complex, but it is separate from, because I'm on Tri-West, it's completely ran by the government. And so it's not part of the private health insurance. I mean, look, I would say prior to Trump taking office, there were several Republicans who, and I would say on the Senate side, who, advocated on getting rid of Obamacare. And unfortunately, they took a political approach and voted against the vote to repeal it. Now, does Trump have a replacement? No, I mean, I haven't seen it. I'd love to see it.
Then why did he lie to us and say that he had a replacement plan coming in a couple weeks, coming in a month? Does that bother you that he basically lied to all of us? And now he's saying he has concepts of a plan. I don't even know what that means.
Well, I think all politicians lie to us. So, I mean, I don't necessarily consider that as a lie, or more or less as I consider it as, he doesn't know. He hasn't formulated that plan yet. So I hope he does.
Years. I mean, he's had 9 years to form. We're talking about policy now, not personal characteristics. He's had 9 years to, quote, formulate a plan. Why has he not formulated a plan as a replacement to Obamacare? What would be his excuse for that? Like, I don't understand. 9 years seems like a long time.
Yeah, I mean, what I believe is that when the Republicans pushed in 2015 to repeal Obamacare, I know Republicans personally who said, well, we'll develop a plan after we repeal it. So, I will agree. I feel like that is a very weak point that, he does need to define that for the American people so we know what that is.
Let's talk a little bit about what he ran on back. I could even go back to 2016. We're going to build a wall and Mexico is going to pay for it. He built 16% of the wall and Mexico didn't pay for it. He also said he was going to hire a special prosecutor to go after Hillary Clinton. He didn't do that either. Would you consider that failed policy?
No, on the Hillary Clinton thing, no, because he did say after the election that, he just wanted to look forward and, basically, didn't feel like it was in the best interest of the country to go after Hillary Clinton. And I commend him on that.
Could it be possible that maybe there was no evidence to prosecute Hillary Clinton and perhaps maybe he just lied to get votes? Because many MAGA supporters love to hear, we're going to lock up Hillary Clinton. And we heard, lock her up, lock her up. Could it maybe be possible that he wasn't just being the nice guy that he claims to be, and maybe that he knew and people around him knew that there wasn't sufficient evidence to prosecute him? Could that also be possible?
Well, that would be not true, because James Comey, the FBI director, came out and said, yes, there's evidence, but we're not going to prosecute.
Because there wasn't enough sufficient evidence, in his opinion, which he stated that would lead to a crime that was committed. He also said that.
Yeah, but I mean, there's evidence there. So,
but not enough. I understand, but not enough evidence, according to Comey, that you could say that she committed a crime. Isn't that kind of important?
I think that if a special prosecutor was appointed to look into it instead of Comey himself, I think that, I would have a better feeling about the outcome of that than having him do it, because obviously he is a supporter of Hillary Clinton. And so
Boy, he's got a heck of a way of showing it then a week before the election, saying he was opening up an investigation into Hillary Clinton. That doesn't sound like a Hillary Clinton supporter to me, but that's cool. Let's get your criticisms on the Biden-Harris administration. Failings, what have they done wrong? What are your criticisms of this current administration?
Well, I will say just real quick about the wall, because you brought that up.
Sure.
You know, people need to understand that, you know, he fought the House of Representatives fought him every step of the way to be able to fund that. You know, I mean, I understand how he was going to have Mexico pay for it, which was through tariffs of goods coming into the country. And I don't feel like we were able to see fully the extent of what he could have done with the wall, had he not been fought the whole step of the way. And it wasn't until, a year before the election where, the Supreme Court came out and said, no, he can, let him finish, he's in charge of immigration. And they did that. So, I mean, there is material sitting at the southern border that, now all of a sudden Harris is saying, yeah, let's build the wall, when she's the one that says, no, we need to let them in.
Right. But let me just stop you there. That's not exactly what Harris said. In fact, the reason why she was okay with allocating more funds for the wall was the bipartisan border bill that many MAGA Republicans and Democrats helped put together. And that was give and take. And she doesn't necessarily agree with the wall, but she did agree with what Republicans, MAGA Republicans, some of them were asking for. And then Donald Trump picked up the phone and told House Republicans not to pass this bill because it wasn't perfect.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Trump has his own vision for, what he believes is appropriate for immigration. I think where Trump is sitting is that, Biden on day one opened up the border, and now we've experienced the influx of people coming into this country illegally, not going through the process like they should, and now we're seeing rampant crime. And I think where Trump's position is.
What do you mean we're seeing rampant crimes? Violent crime has been way down, over 30% down under the Biden administration. So what do you mean we're seeing rampant crime? I don't understand what you mean by that.
Well, where are these stats taken from? Are they taken from small little towns? Or are they taken from
Federal Bureau of Investigation? It's the entire country that's reporting this from every city in the country. Violent crime is down over 30%. It was way up under Donald Trump. It's way down under the Biden administration. So I would respectfully disagree with you based on the statistics alone when we're talking about violent crime, way down under the Biden administration. And Donald Trump, by the way, lied and said that on a debate stage, that crime was way up. That's also a lie. I'm not saying you're lying. I'm just saying that's misinformation.
No, I know. Look, I live in Colorado. I see the crime here every day. We have stores being broke into. We have cars being broke into. We have Venezuelan gangs in Aurora, Colorado.
So there weren't stores being broken into and cars being broken into under the Donald Trump administration? I don't understand your point.
Yeah, during the George Floyd riots, yeah, you saw that. I'm just saying, yeah. I mean, there's always going to be an element to crime.
Sure.
But what I've experienced here in Colorado and what I've seen is, yeah, crime is on the rise. Now, okay, maybe I shouldn't use the word violent crime. Okay, I'll rescind that. But yeah, you've seen an increase in crime all across the board, especially here in Colorado, because they don't know how to handle the legal immigration issue. You've got citizens being killed by illegal immigrants.
There were citizens. And it's terrible, by the way, every single one of them. But I remind you that there were also citizens killed by illegal immigrants under the Trump administration as well. And I didn't hear any MAGA Republicans talking about it then, but they want to talk about it now. I will also give you another statistic. Per capita, you're more likely to be the victim of a crime with an American citizen than rather someone who is undocumented. I just don't understand the attacks against. Listen, I'm with you where I wish everybody would come into this country legally under a perfect system. I'm with you on that, okay? And I'm for border security, and we have plenty of issues at the border. I'm with you on that as well. The problem I have is we're making it like none of this was going on under the Trump administration when it was as well. And if we're going to say, well, there's more illegals crossing the border under the Biden administration, okay, but we had a bipartisan border bill that was put in place, and the Border Patrol actually endorsed the bill. and that Donald Trump told Republicans not to vote for it. I don't think that's an America first agenda. I think that's a Donald Trump first agenda. Where am I wrong, Trent?
Well, I think Trump just wants the border closed, period.
Then why didn't he close it when he was president?
Well, he tried to close it, but
He did?
he got fought every step of the way by
When did he
liberal
try to?
judges, by liberal prosecutors, and it had to finally go to it took 3 years to get through the judicial system where they finally said, yes, Trump, you can close the border. And that's what happened.
But he never closed the border, though. I'm confused.
Well, yeah, look, border crossings were way down under Trump than under any other president, especially under Biden.
So you think, but you think
Trump said, look.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. No, I'm just saying, Trump said, look, if you want to come into this country and claim asylum, you need to go through the ports of entry to be able to do that. And I'm fine with that. Look, I want people to come here and be productive members of the society. I just want them to do it the right way. That's all.
Well, I think that's a very fair opinion to have. I would like them to do it the right way as well. But unfortunately, we're not living in a perfect country, and we have a lot of issues. Let's move on to the Harris-Biden administration. You talked about immigration. We had a conversation about that. Any other criticisms? Because I think that Joe Biden has accomplished quite a lot of good. I think him and Harris have done a lot of good things in this country. I could name a few, but I want to get some more of your criticisms of the Harris-Biden administration, if that's okay.
Yeah, I feel like the Afghan pullout was a debacle. We shouldn't have lost 13 people. And honestly, I'm sick and tired of people saying, well, that was Trump that set that up. Okay, sure. Mm-hmm. That may have been Trump that set that plan up before he left office.
Right.
But you know what? There's a new quarterback there's a new quarterback. And that's Joe Biden.
Okay.
And it's like he could have changed it. I just get tired of people acting like, plans can't be changed.
Okay, I agree.
That a new administration.
Plans can be changed. I agree with you. The Afghan withdrawal was horrible. We lost 13 soldiers. I agree. That's terrible. We also lost 16 American soldiers in Afghanistan when Donald Trump was president. I didn't hear any Republicans complaining about that. It's a horrible situation. I'm with you, Trent. You serve this country. I feel for those families. But if I have somebody like Bolton, who worked in Donald Trump's administration, saying not only were Trump's policies on the withdrawal exactly the same, but he also, and I want to get your thoughts on this because I'm glad you brought up Afghanistan. He negotiated with the Taliban, something that Obama never did, and he helped release 5,000 Taliban terrorists. So not only were his policies almost identical to Biden as far as the withdrawal, which was a mess, I agree with you, but he negotiated with the Taliban and invited them to Camp David. As somebody who served this country, you can't tell me you agree with that. I guess you can, but I'd be surprised. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, look, I believe that the reason why he brought him into Camp David is because they're the ones killing the American people. And look, I can go all the way back to when Bush was in office, and I will say, I served during that time, and it was a mistake ever going into Afghanistan or ever going into Iraq.
Yeah.
But I feel like Trump went straight to the source, which the source was the terrorists.
So you're okay.
And said, come on in. Now, could he picked a different location? Yeah. I totally agree.
You can't tell me you're okay with Taliban terrorists who behead people to invite them to Camp David. You're not okay with that, are you?
No, I just said he could have picked a different location to meet with them at, but I'm fine with him meeting with them and saying, look, if you continue to kill Americans, I'm going to go after you, your family, and their family. And he made it personal to them because the Iraq government has proved over the last several years, well, for decades, that they can't manage their own country.
Well, I agree with you there. Sure, I agree with you there. I
feel like it was okay for him to do that? Yeah, I don't have a problem with him doing that.
Okay.
The location, sure. I would.
I don't think releasing 5,000 Taliban terrorists is good policy. But let me ask you a question. Do you think that, because we haven't gotten to Kamala Harris, do you think that she should be able to stand on her record in the Biden administration, or do you think that her record is abysmal? Well, what do you think when it comes to that?
Well, when I look at Harris, I look at what has she accomplished over the last 3.5 years? Mm-hmm. She was supposed to be the border czar. I don't think she ever went down to the border. I know she went to Central America and talked about, illegal immigration down there, but I don't recall her ever going to our actual southern border to see what's going on.
Well, I don't think photo ops
And-
will help anybody. That's just my personal opinion. And I think most people in the
Well, but don't you
Yeah.
feel? But look, I mean, if you're in charge of something,
Well,
aren't
she
you
was
going to go
never-
down and look at it?
She was never labeled the border czar. Mayorkas was, if you want to use that term border czar, it was Mayorkas. It wasn't Kamala Harris. But you did mention, what does she have to run on? What did she accomplish? I'm going to just name you a few things, and I want to get your thoughts on this. The Biden administration has the lowest unemployment rate they've had in over 50 years in this country. More legislation in the first 2 years of the Biden administration than anybody else in modern American history. We've had record highs in the stock market. 16 million jobs have been added. And most people, most economists would agree that are not biased. We have the strongest economy in the world right now when we compare ourselves to other countries. Don't you think those are some things that they can run on, or do you disagree?
Well, look, we went from 1.4% inflation to now we're hovering around 8 to 9% inflation.
Why is that?
Things are more expensive today than they've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
I would disagree on the jobs, because are we looking at jobs that people went back to because of the COVID situation?
I'm glad you asked that.
Or are these truly new jobs? Because the other thing I would ask are they the people? What is the real unemployment rate? Meaning the people who just truly don't work anymore.
The unemployment rate right now is lower than it was before COVID under Donald Trump. So I guess there's your answer to that.
Okay, well, I think the real unemployment rate is what we should be looking at, which is how many people just stop going to work because they want to live off of the government dole instead of actually getting out and working.
I guess Trent, I get what you're saying, but I guess my question is, why is it when it's a stat that makes the Biden administration look good, that can't be true, and that's not what I see? But then when it's a stat that might make Donald Trump look good, those stats are correct and they're right on the ball. I mean, I give you the stats on violent crime, and then you say, well, that's not what I see in Colorado. I give you the stats on unemployment numbers, and you're saying, well, those are just COVID jobs coming back. But then when it's a stat, when it comes to Donald Trump, those must be accurate. I guess that's my question for you.
Well, okay. First of all, I did say on the violent crime that what I see here in Colorado, and I withdrew the violent part. I'm just looking at straight crime.
Fair enough.
Look, I don't look. When I look at a poll, I don't trust polls on any side of the fence. I don't, because I don't know if they're real or they're not real. When I look at numbers, I always want to know, okay, are they comparing apples to apples? And, I'm not saying that I'm only going to agree with information that helps President Trump or disagree with something that hurts President Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to see the data. I want to see, are they including the real unemployment rate? I was asking the question, which was I wasn't saying, that these are new jobs or these are not new jobs. These are just people returning to their job after COVID.
Right.
Is that a factor into this number or not?
Well, listen, all I can tell you is that the unemployment is lower now than it was before COVID when Donald Trump was president. You said on your social media page, quote, they took him out so he couldn't talk in regards to the first assassination attempt, which, by the way, I think is horrible. Any assassination attempt, whether I agree or not, Democrat or Republican, I know you would agree with me on that. It's terrible. But when you say they took him out so he couldn't talk, the man or the 20-year-old was shooting at the former president. You don't think they should have taken him out?
Well, I mean, I think they should have. Well, I mean, obviously, he was taken out. I guess my point that I was trying to make was they took him out so we couldn't find out why he did this. What was the reasoning behind it?
So you think in those seconds when they shot and killed that 20-year-old, they said, well, we got to take him out, not because he's shooting at the former president and innocent people are being shot. Let's take him out so he can't talk? That's the point you're making?
Well, no, I mean, but you look at his dad, the guy's dad's not even talking or saying, hey, this is who he was. This is what he did. These are the things that, I mean, he's not cooperating. And so that's my point was, hey, it's just strange. It's just strange that, here is dad.
When somebody is shooting at the former president, I think they all should be taken out. I want to be very clear on that. We disagree. And as far as the father goes, the father had multiple interviews with the FBI. Now, he might not be talking to the media. Quite frankly, I don't blame him. But he has cooperated, as far as I know, with the FBI. It's still under investigation. You said that you want to teach Satanists and the deep state a lesson and defeat Kamala Harris. Do you believe people that vote for Kamala Harris are part of Satanism and the deep state?
Yeah, I do. I do believe that. I mean, look, if you look at, it's just as simple as our education system. The left is indoctrinating our children. Okay, they're cramming transgender down people's throats.
Where are they doing that? Where are they doing that? Where are they cramming?
They're doing that all over. Look at Governor Newsom signed in, I feel like, the most horrific bill, which prevents now parents, the school system, from talking to the parents about their kid wanting to be a man instead of a woman, or a woman and now they want to be a man.
So their kids are just coming home another gender? Is that how it's working now?
Well, Governor Newsom signed a bill saying that the school system is not allowed to talk to, and they've even gone in and I believe there's a law passed that actually takes the kids away from the parents if they don't support.
Well, maybe I'm wrong on
children.
this. Maybe, Trent, tell me if you agree or not. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but a lot of the parents that I talk to are not concerned about their kids coming home another gender. They're concerned about their kids not coming home at all. Why is it that so many Republicans seem to be obsessed about transgender surgery, but when it comes to gun control, nobody seems to have any answers on the far right? Don't you think that's a little bit more harmful to kids' guns and our kids being executed in our schools than somehow this idea that kids are coming home another gender?
Well, you see, diversity, equity, and inclusion in almost every school system. It's here in my school system.
What's wrong with diversity? What's wrong with diversity? Is that a bad thing?
It's not a bad thing until you start teaching kids that white people are racist and that this country is racist.
What teacher is teaching kids that white people are racist? Do you have evidence of that?
There's teachers in my school system here that have taught that tell the kids, look, there's a teacher in my, look, if it happens in my school district, it's happening across the country.
Okay, well, we did have something called slavery, so I think that's kind of an important part of American history, whether it be good or bad. I'm not so sure I see teachers that are saying white people in this country are all racist. They should be fired if they're doing that. But I do find it interesting that when I talk to you about gun control and our kids being mowed down in our schools, the leading cause of death in kids, you don't even talk about that. You go straight to they're indoctrinating our kids. Do you see where I'm going with that, Trent?
No, I go with that, but I will say, look at who the shooters are that are shooting up these schools or shooting up these nightclubs. Mm-hmm. Okay, they're mentally ill kids,
of course,
who have been reported. Who most of them, I believe, have been reported either to the FBI or been reported to the school system, and nothing's ever been done.
Well, most of them, I agree. We agree. Most Americans agree with comprehensive background checks, but Republicans that are in office right now won't pass them. Why is that? 85% of the country agrees that we should have comprehensive background checks. Are you okay with it? Speaking of mental illness, why is it Republicans always vote against bills that would allocate more money to help the mentally ill, number one? And number two, are you okay with an 18-year-old kid, the day he turns 18, walking into a gun store, buying thousands of rounds of ammunition and AR-15s? We know that's what took place in the Uvalde shooting and other shootings. Are you okay with that?
Look, I'm okay. I support the Second Amendment, and I believe we have the right to bear arms.
As do I.
And if you look at the cities that have the most stringent gun laws in this country, Chicago being one, and New York City being one, they're the countries they're the cities that have, extremely high gun crimes in those states. So if we look at those states and say, or those cities and say, look, that's not working. And it's not, the law-abiding
So what does then?
citizens who are causing this problem. It is people who, obtain these guns illegally that's causing this issue.
Not all the time. The Uvalde shooter bought the gun legally. And there are mass shootings right here in Las Vegas, the October 1 shooting. The biggest mass shootings in the history of this country, for the most part, they obtain these guns legally. I agree with you that, we want illegal, people holding guns illegally off the streets as well. I'm with you on that. But I guess my point being is I don't hear solutions. I hear, well, we got to do something about mental illness. Well, how can we do something with mental illness when Republicans in office today vote against bills that would allocate more money to address that issue? I mean, that's the part that's mesmerizing to me. So, I mean, I don't know. You ran for office. Do you have any solutions when it comes to gun violence?
Well, look, I just feel like I feel like the government needs to stay out of, our life when it comes to the right to bear arms.
But when it comes to the right of a woman, what to do with her body, you're totally okay with the government being involved there, though.
No.
Well, what do you mean? Are you pro-life, or what are you then? I thought you were.
Yeah, but I'm pro-life. But
Okay.
how come being pro-life automatically you assume that I want the government involved in not, preventing women?
That's exactly what Donald Trump is doing. He left it up to the states, but then the Supreme Court in Arizona and what happened in Alabama, it's not being left up to the people in those states. And you had a couple conservative judges that were lunatics. And I do believe that if Donald Trump wouldn't even answer that on a debate stage. If he got an abortion ban on his desk, would he veto the bill? He wouldn't even answer that on a debate stage. So, yeah, I think a lot of MAGA Republicans, if they had it their way, would want to ban abortion. And there are women in this country that are dying because of it. There are examples of it. And I just think that is government involvement. A well-regulated militia, going back to the gun issue, you say you don't want government involved. So what does that mean? Does that mean you're okay with everybody having grenades? Are you okay with everybody having machine guns? Are you okay with everybody having tankers and bombs? You don't think there should be a well-regulated militia? You don't think it should be regulated by the government in any way, shape, or form?
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, I agree that, people shouldn't go down and buy tanks and buy grenades.
Right.
But when it comes to going in and buying a handgun or a shotgun,
right,
it's like, come on.
I'll be very clear. I'm okay with, somebody like you, somebody who knows how to use a weapon. Buy your handgun, buy your shotgun. Everybody has the right to defend themselves. I am pro Second Amendment, just like you. We agree on that. My issue is, there was an assault weapons ban, and you know a lot about these weapons. You served. An assault weapons ban fizzled out by Republicans. Gun violence went way up. Why is it in so many of these mass shootings, it seems like they're using these high-capacity magazines to kill as many people as possible? I just don't think some of these weapons should be sold to the public. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
So are you saying that you don't believe ARs should be sold on the market?
I'm saying high-capacity magazines that were never designed for you to defend yourself. They were designed for heroes like you to serve in war, to kill as many people as possible in a short period of time, should not be sold to the public. That's what I would say. But that's my thoughts on that. But I guess it goes back to what I said earlier. I just want to hear solutions. It doesn't mean we're going to agree on everything. I don't hear a lot of solutions from Republicans. What I do see is not you, but some of these Republicans wearing their AR-15 pins in the House chambers days after a mass shooting, but yet after Donald Trump gets his ear pierced, they wear these ear bandages at the Republican National Convention. Do you see where I'm going with that? I just think
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, look, on the gun issue, I'm not a fan of the ATF. I don't think the ATF should know exactly every single gun that's out there on the market in terms of, whether it's a shotgun, a 22, or, a handgun or whatever. I mean,
Right.
I do feel like, the government should be able to say, look, people, you can't buy tanks.
Right.
You can't buy grenades.
Right.
But I think an 18-year-old kid who wants to go hunting with his dad should be able to go in and buy a shotgun so he can do that.
Sure, I agree with you. I don't have a problem with that at all. I have a problem with 18-year-olds buying high-capacity magazine weapons and then going and killing a bunch of innocent people. We obviously both want the same. We don't want innocent people to die. I guess it's just how we get there. And I think we need more conversations like this. Well, Trent, I'd love to have you back on, so maybe we can get that video situation taken care of and we can do it again.
Yeah, I'd love to be on, man.
Yeah, well,
You're great. And I
I
love
appreciate
the
it.
conversation. And look, I'll just say this. You know, there's extremes on both sides of the aisle.
Sure.
And I hope, I just hope that at some point in my lifetime, we can actually get back to, working, compromising more and understanding that I would rather take 80% than sit on 100% and say, nope, it's all or nothing.
Well, I agree.
And so
I agree. I think we don't have we need more of these conversations. I do agree with you. I don't think having nicknames for people that you don't like, which Donald Trump does on a regular basis, doesn't help that political discourse. But we don't need to go back to that. But Trent, you're a stand-up guy. I do appreciate you coming on. I would like to have you on again. Maybe we can do video when we can get that situated. But thank you for your service to this country. I appreciate you answering my questions, sir. And I'd love to have you on again, maybe in a month or so, and we can do it again if that's sounds good.
Absolutely. Thank you,
Trent. Appreciate you for coming on.
Yep.
Thank you. That's Trent Leisy, everybody. He ran for Congress and State House in Colorado, diehard Trump supporter and a Navy veteran. We will take, sorry for our audio issues. We will take a quick break. And when we come back, the former district attorney in the great state of Nevada, he's a Republican, David Roger, will be joining us in studio. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. It's Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you folks.
Yeah, I understand that people become very emotional when they talk about politics, and especially in the race that we have here in a couple months, it is divided this country, which is unfortunate. The fact that we have a candidate who is a convicted felon, I understand the concern that people have, and I also understand the other side where people think that he was politically prosecuted. But I believe in the jury system. I don't always agree with the results,
Right.
but we impanel juries to hear cases, people who have no stake in the outcome of a trial. And I think you have to respect the jury system.
See, and I completely agree with you. And I wish that more people would have that approach. People that are not even legal scholars and the experience that you have doesn't mean we have to agree with the decision, right? I didn't agree with the O.J. Simpson verdict years ago when I was like in high school. But you still have to respect the decision to the point where you don't attack judges and juries, right? And I feel like that's the point we're at right now. In some instances where if you don't like the decision, you're going to attack the judge, members of the judge's family, and you're going to attack the jury, right? And that's the part that I would imagine disgusts you as much as it disgusts me. Doesn't mean we have to agree with every jury. It doesn't mean every jury is going to get every case right. But it doesn't mean that we're going to personally attack people, right? It's dangerous, isn't it?
Sure. The criminal justice system is a shared responsibility. Lawmakers set the laws. Prosecutors evaluate the evidence and present the cases to juries. Juries decide cases. We have judges throughout the process, whether it's the trial judge or the appellate courts. There are checks and balances within the system. I haven't always agreed with every decision that a jury has made or a judge has made, but you have to respect the process, and I'm not sure that everybody feels the same.
You've had plenty of cases, I'm sure, where people, maybe prominent people, defy a subpoena. The former president of the United States defied a subpoena for over a year in the classified documents case. Without litigating that case with you right now on the air, what do you make of that? A former president defying a subpoena for at least a year. And I understand Jack Smith, he's trying to get that case reinstated, and there's a lot of things going on with that case. You've experienced, I would imagine, in a lot of the cases that you took, people that defy a subpoena for a long period of time. What are your thoughts on that?
Everybody is entitled to challenge legal issues. The executive privilege is something that's very important. It can't be taken lightly. And so, just speaking to the process, if people want to challenge a subpoena, there is a process in place. And sometimes the judicial system works slowly.
Mm-hmm.
You have a trial judge who wants to get all the facts and examine the law and offer the best decision he or she can make. And then we go through the appellate process. And, in the federal system, we have the circuit courts, and they make decisions. And, not all circuit courts are in agreement on legal issues. And that's why we have the U.S. Supreme Court. But once it gets to the U.S. Supreme Court and you lose, that's the end of it.
If you're just joining us, former Nevada DA and a great DA he was, David Roger, joining us in studio. So I hear this a lot from my callers. I tend to agree. I don't understand, whether you agree or not with an outcome of a decision, how somebody could be a convicted felon and yet run for president of the United States. David, I can walk into a fast food chain and ask for a job. They're going to give me, something to fill out, and it'll ask you, are you a convicted felon? There are a lot of places that, I understand it. There are a lot of places where people will not hire somebody because they're a convicted felon. Yet we live in a country where somebody could be the leader of the free world if they're a convicted felon. Help me and my listeners understand that, because it doesn't make sense to me.
Frankly, I haven't done the legal research. As I understand it from others, the United States Constitution sets the standards for when a person is eligible to run for president of the United States and be the leader of the free world. And if the United States Constitution does not prohibit convicted felons from running for office, then really it's up to the voters. If the voters feel that they do not want a convicted felon to be the president of the United States, then they have the final say.
How do you feel about that? As someone who's dedicated your life to your work, do you think that a convicted felon should be running for any public office, mayor, assemblyman, assemblywoman, or the president of the United States? What's your personal feeling on that?
I always felt that as the elected district attorney, my job was to enforce the laws, not make the laws.
Mm-hmm.
And, if the U.S. Constitution does not prohibit convicted felons from running for office, then we have to respect the Constitution. And so
Yeah.
I'm really more of a person who respects the law as opposed to a person who injects my personal opinions into things.
Mm-hmm. Respecting the law. I think that's a good thing. I feel like in this country, it seems like more and more people are not respecting the law. And I'm not necessarily just talking about politicians. I'm talking about just people in general not respecting the law. And, I was just having a conversation with a gentleman earlier about gun control. As you know, Mr. Roger, we had the biggest mass shooting in the history of this country right in our backyard. Gun violence seems to be all-time highs throughout the country. And I don't care whether it happens in Chicago or Vegas or anywhere. I don't want innocent people to die. You don't. What do you think the root core issues on gun control? What can we do as a country? I guess sometimes you could make the argument some of these laws aren't being enforced enough, but what are your thoughts on gun control in general and these school shootings and everyday mass shootings? What do you make of this?
It sickens me when I see these mass shootings. I mean, we're coming up on October 1, where we had one of the greatest massacres in the United States history. And so it is very sad. I think that there are a lot of people with mental health issues, but I know that you talk to a lot of people who are very partisan, and because of my role as the district attorney, I was a Republican district attorney who was elected, and when I started, I was down 25,000 registered votes because there are more Democrats than Republicans. But I think that I was elected because I'm down the middle. I enforce the laws. What my own personal opinion about our country today is that the far left and the far right just aren't willing to come to the middle. And I think that if people were more inclined to come to the middle, we'd resolve some of these issues, or whether it's abortion or the right to bear arms.
Right.
And today, as a country, we're not in that position. And I'm not a person who follows politics closely, but there's 18 or 19% of our country that is undecided on this election. They're not.
I find that hard to believe. Can you believe that? And you're right. That statistic is correct. I'm just saying, in my mind, at this point, how can you be undecided? Like that part, I don't understand. It's mesmerizing to me. We know who Donald Trump is. For the most part, you probably should know Kamala Harris, at least where she stands on gun control, where she stands on abortion, where she stands on healthcare, right? And when people say they're undecided, I'm like, really? That's my first response. Am I wrong? I don't know. I'm mesmerized by that. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
It is intriguing, but I also understand that there are that 18-19% of the people who don't have extreme views, and they want to know where are we headed as a country. And to those people, I'm sure that they're saying they still don't know where the candidates stand on certain issues.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll have to watch for in November.
Yeah. I am curious to ask you this. We never had it in our lifetime. We never saw anything like a January 6th, right? While that day was going on, and I know you're not a big political person, but just from the legal side of things, all those people that stormed the Capitol, officers beaten, Mr. Roger, like what went through your mind on that day, January 6th? What were you thinking on that day?
I was horrified seeing a country that I love be in such a state of violence, and I'm sure that there are countries around the world who look at us and we are the epitome of democracy and saw people storming the Capitol and wondering what in the world is going on.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I'm mesmerized by it. And again, I know you're not a political person, and I hate to give you a barrage of Donald Trump questions, but I think this is important from a legal perspective. As you know, officers were beaten that day. There are hundreds of people still in jail from January 6th, all sorts of different crimes that were committed, right? From assaulting police officers to destruction of property, you name it, right? And we know that because we saw the video. And then you have Donald Trump, who's calling those people, he generalized all of them as hostages and patriots. I think rhetoric, and I want to ask you about dangerous rhetoric, but calling someone a hostage and a patriot who assaults a police officer, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, I just find it repugnant. And again, as the former DA, when you hear the former president make statements like that from people that were convicted in a court of law, and they all had the right to defend themselves, they were convicted, some of them plea deals. What goes through your mind? This is the leader of the Republican Party who's calling those people hostages and patriots.
Yeah, we're a nation of laws, not a nation of men. And what these folks did was illegal. You can disagree with the government. You can disagree with political leaders' decisions, but there is a way to express your distaste or your dissent from something, and using violence to dissent from a nation's decision is wrong.
Political rhetoric, incitement of violence. I'm not a legal scholar like you are. I don't know if legally there'd be enough evidence to prove that there was incitement from Donald Trump that caused January 6th. What I do know, and I think what most logical people would say, is that, well, if he didn't say the election was stolen, which it wasn't, January 6th doesn't happen. But is that enough to convict somebody? Now, we know Jack Smith, they're not convicting, or they're not indicting him on that incitement. But can you talk about incitement a little bit? And in your day as a DA, incitement of violence, what do you need to prove that somebody incited something bad to happen?
I'm not familiar with federal law, so it'd be
Yeah.
unfair for me to speculate. But you have independent counsel that is reviewing all of the evidence. He's a former Department of Justice lawyer, as I understand. He understands the federal laws, and if there is sufficient evidence to move forward with the case, he will.
Yeah, and we'll just have to see what happens further. Are you worried, Mr. Roger? No matter what happens in November, are you worried that we could possibly see political violence, and that is a clear and present danger to this country?
I think that the citizens of this country have demonstrated that there is a group, and I don't know how big the group is, but there are groups of people who will not accept a decision and do not embrace the peaceful transfer of power, and that's unfortunate. I hope that we don't see another insurrection, but listen, it could happen from both sides. You have people who are trying to assassinate a former president of the United States. I don't know what their political affiliations are.
Well, the first guy was a Republican, 20 years old, registered Republican. The second guy was somebody who voted for Donald Trump in 2016. He was more of a Vivek Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley person. That's all we know right now. I guess when I hear that, they tried to do this, and I hear Donald Trump talk like that, they tried to do this to me, and they try to blame Democrats for what happened, or Kamala Harris.
I agree with you. I don't think that it's fair. It's the individuals who are doing this. Whether they have a particular ideology, I don't know, but I'm certain that President Biden nor Vice President Harris are advocating for the assassination of their opponent.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, terrible incident, right? And we saw some elected officials on the right that were making jokes about it, memes about it, lies about it, conspiracy theories about it. And it's like, That just can't happen anywhere, right? No matter how much we might disagree with one another. You know, you're somebody that has worked with police officers for over 3 decades, right? I try to shake a police officer's hand when I see him and thank you for what you do, right? I would like to consider myself pro-police and pro-Black Lives Matter. I'm not pro the organization of 8 or 9 people. I'm pro the movement. I think equality should be a good thing. And George Floyd sparked, you know, and I'm sure you were just as upset as the next person. Like when you saw, and let me be clear on this, I think most police officers, the overwhelming majority, are heroes. They risk their life every day, and I have the utmost respect for them. And I think we have a great sheriff here, by the way. Kevin McMahill is an awesome dude, and he's been in here plenty of times, and I think he's great. But there are some bad apples out there, right, for lack of a better term. What went through your mind when you saw that George Floyd murder, because that's what it was, right? Derek Chauvin was convicted on murder charges. What went through your mind when you saw that?
You know, being the attorney for the Las Vegas Police Protective Association, I'm familiar with their training. We don't train to sit on someone's neck, and that sickened me. And I think that almost all police officers probably felt the same. You know, whether well, that's my answer.
Yeah, no, I understand. And obviously there was violence at some of these protests, which is horrible, and I don't think anybody would condone that. Do you believe, this might be a tough question for you to answer, but do you believe that as a whole, when it comes to law enforcement, that the color of one's skin doesn't change the way a police officer thinks or the way a police officer acts? Or do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country throughout the board?
I can't speak for other jurisdictions. You know, I believe that the men and women of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and all the police agencies in Clark County are good, decent people. I was faced with this question when I was the district attorney, and you know, we reviewed 75,000 cases a year. We never looked to say, hey, how many Asians have we prosecuted this year? How many blacks?
Right.
I mean, I invite people to go down to the Regional Justice Center, go walk into Justice Court, have a seat, and watch the first appearances in Justice Court.
Sure.
And you will see that almost every race is represented in the jury box. And you know, from my perspective, we prosecuted cases based upon the evidence and not the gender or the race of an individual.
Sure,
I understand where people say that, geez, you know, look at this particular race, and you know, they are being arrested and charged, and you know, to suggest that it never happens would be naive.
Sure.
But I do believe that police officers, at least here locally, are making their vehicle stops based upon laws and not the individuals.
I think body cameras have definitely helped. I think it not only protects possible victims, but it also protects the police officers in many instances. I wish body cameras would be on all the time. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I do think body cameras have been a great tool to help both sides.
Sure. You know, people resist change, and law enforcement officers were no different. Some pushed back. I think that if you talk to a random police officer today, they'll say that body cameras are a good thing. You know, there is some complaint that their body cameras aren't on all the time, but you know, you have to understand that we're talking about human beings, not robots,
Right.
and things happen quickly.
Sure.
And you know, the mind has to identify a problem, process what they're going to do, react, and move forward. And you know, sometimes it is a dangerous situation, and officers aren't always thinking about tapping their camera as opposed to protecting themselves or others.
No question. And you also have, like what you just said, you stated, these are human beings. We are all not perfect. Doesn't mean that you would excuse an officer committing a crime, which I know you wouldn't excuse that. But at the same time, They make mistakes. They're not perfect. And we also have to take that into account. No question. All right, if you're just joining us, in studio is retired district attorney, former DA here in the great state of Nevada, David Roger. He has agreed to stick around for one more segment, and we are going to take phone calls on the other side. Before we take calls, before we take a break, I want to remind you guys to check out my website, pushingthelimits.live. Again, that website is pushingthelimits.live, where you can see extra content, and you can also buy merchandise on there, and there's a donate button on the front page if you enjoy what we do. Check out that website, pushingthelimits.live. Again, it's pushingthelimits.live. We will take some phone calls when we come back, and you'll be able to speak to a retired district DA, David Roger. Take a quick break. Be back in 90 seconds. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part? Every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at radioyou101.com.
Hello, I'm Ron Quince, and I'm running for Congress as a nonpartisan candidate in District 1. I'm dedicated to serving our entire community. In this challenging time, it's more important than ever to have leaders who focus on unity and progress. I believe in putting people over politics and finding practical solutions that benefit us all. Never stop believing in America, no matter our troubles and turmoil. We can and we will do better. We must be brave. Stop voting for those politicians who care about their career and gaining power but don't improve our lives. I believe in America and I believe in you. You need a candidate who believes in policy over party because you deserve better. In Nevada, every voice matters. I humbly ask for your vote this coming election, November 5th. To learn how we can create a better America, please visit quincefornevada.com. Paid for by Ron Quince for Congress.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Monday. Thank you so much for joining us. Please check out the official gaming bar of the PTL radio show, Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. They just had their prime rib night. Oh, man, it was so good. I'm getting hungry. But great promotions there, including if you earn 350 points playing a slot machine there on a Sunday here this month, you're going to get $50 in free slot play. That happens on Sunday between 12 p.m. to 8 a.m. Please check them out, Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. We've got David Roger in studio, retired DA here in the great state of Nevada, nice enough to join us. He's worked with police officers for over 34 years, which is really incredible. And David has agreed to take some calls to get into the lion's den here, so to speak. So let's do it. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Robbie, who's first up on PTL. Hi, Robbie. You're on with David Roger. Go right ahead.
Hi, how are you? Nice to see you. Let you know, calling from Switzerland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
a far ways away.
I'm an expat American. I've been here for over 30 years. And I only discovered you a couple of weeks ago, so I don't know if you've ever had like international call-ins or international guests.
A few.
Okay, that's all right, because I thought it might be interesting to talk about what my experience here as an American has been.
Okay.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm not MAGA, so anybody can forget that idea. I want to say, back in 2015, that election, people asked me before the election, "Is Trump going to win?" I said, "No, it can never be. He's a clown. He's a fool." I don't think the American people are that stupid. And then it happened. And then the next day or the next week, and for weeks after, people ask me, "What happened?" And I say, "I don't know. To this day, I really don't know what happened."
Well, I'll tell you, and maybe David we could ask him about this, but we had a free and fair election in 2016. Donald Trump.
Oh no,
won.
I know that.
Yeah,
I know that. I'm just saying, what the people thought. How could he actually be elected? That's what I meant.
Well, I mean, David, what are your thoughts? You have any thoughts on that?
The voters spoke, and the electoral college passed on their decision. There are different things that appeal to voters, and I'm not a political pundit, but I think probably some people felt that his celebrity was important to them.
Right.
There are others who say that he was a plain-spoken person who appeals to Americans, but I can't tell you why he won, except he got the most
Well, I
votes.
tell you, I'm a New Yorker, native New Yorker, and I tell you, everybody in New York hates Trump. I am so happy that my family, there's not one Trump supporter in it, and I know that can be a problem for some families when it's sort of mixed ideology.
Oh yeah, I get people that call in almost every day, my friend. And by the way, I appreciate you calling in from Switzerland. I get people calling in every day that say they don't talk to certain family members because of different political ideology or whether you support or Trump or you don't. And I'm really sad to hear those stories, to be quite frank. But this is the times that we are living in right now. I just think we're very divided politically. We're on a lot of different issues. All right, thank you for the call. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Beverly. Hi, Beverly. You are on with former DA David Roger. Go right ahead.
Hi, how are you today?
Good.
I'm calling because I believe that there are good policemen and bad policemen, and I hope that I believe there are more good than there are bad. But those who are of the bad, they really give police a bad name. Actually, right now there is a case that the government is looking at where it's called the Goon Squad, who abused 2 black men. And they're looking into it to see how bad it is.
Have you heard about that? Let me ask David about that. Have you heard about that? The Goon Squad?
I'm not.
Yes,
I'm not
in
certain.
Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
It's a case that's taking place in Mississippi.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So I can tell you locally that there are a lot of checks and balances, and not everybody will agree, but police officers are held to a pretty high standard.
Mm-hmm.
The district attorney prosecutes police officers. We have an internal affairs bureau that reviews cases. I know that all the sheriffs that I have worked with, Sheriff McMahill, Sheriff Lombardo, Sheriff Gillespie, take their jobs very seriously, and setting aside misconduct cases, I know that when an officer is involved in a critical incident, there are numerous levels of review. The sheriffs have a citizens use of force board, and so there are a lot of reviews. Do some people slip through the cracks? I suppose that's possible.
I do think that with social media and body cameras, I think there's more accountability with police officers perhaps now than there was maybe even just 10 years ago. That's my personal opinion. And you're right. There are a lot of different reviews and a lot of different steps to take to see if an officer broke the law, broke protocol, you name it. Thank you for the call, Beverly. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Nelson. Nelson is next. Hi, Nelson. You're on with David Roger. Go right ahead.
Yes. to answer the previous callers, he asked how can Trump be successful in 2016. Well, when you're the con father, you can con anybody. But I don't think the country's going to fall for it this time and be conned again and ascend into total chaos with Project 2025.
Mm-hmm.
But I think something good today, actually, the FBI came out with some statistics that crime is down the past year, so we're heading in the right track.
Let me ask David about that. Yeah, so there are some good statistics that came out throughout the country that violent crime is way down, like over 30%. What are your thoughts on that, David? And what, if anything, would you attribute that to? Good policing? What would you say to that?
You know, it's funny that this topic came up because I was thinking about it this morning, and you know, I think that too often law enforcement, there have been times where law enforcement, whether it be prosecutors or police, have said that, you know, these statistics are national statistics. You know, I mean, I heard some nonsense that, you know, people committed crimes because they're, you know, just coming out of COVID, and that's just all nonsense. I think that with respect to local law enforcement, you know, both police and prosecutors have to accept some responsibility with crime stats. You know, I think the police and prosecutors have to work together. The criminal justice system has to work, and so you know, I'm a believer that there's a shared responsibility. Everybody has a role in it, and when people say, well, it's just a national stat, or it isn't our fault, it's the economy. No, I mean, if you're in law enforcement, your job is to protect the community if you're taking your job seriously.
And this is a positive when we see these numbers that came out that Nelson is referring to earlier today. Don't care if it's a Republican or a Democrat in office. Don't care. What I do care about is that violent crime is down, which is, I think we all could agree, a good thing. Thank you for the call, Nelson. Appreciate you. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Cyrus. Cyrus is next up on PTL. Hi, Cyrus. You're on with David Roger. Go right ahead.
Hey, thank you for having me here. This is going to sound a bit extreme, but I just don't think this country or all these Western countries really are going to have a good future regardless of who becomes president, even if any of us become president.
In what aspect? Why do you say that? And when you say not a good pathway for the country in the future, in what area? Why would you say?
Basically, you know, family structure is really going to be crummy in the next several decades. Low marriage rates, low birth rates. It's just, you know, everything just follows through it.
Well, that's
you look
kind
at the high divorce rates.
Well, we've always had high divorce rates, right?
Sports.
We've always had high divorce rates, but boy, that's kind of a depressing, glim way of looking at the future.
Well, it is higher than it was in the 60s. We know that.
Well, sure. Well, sure, and I would be certain that there's a lot of different reasons for that.
Birth rates are very low, and they've been declining. This is just. I don't think really things are going to add up too well, and I think it's really a cultural problem. It's not more of a political problem.
How is it a cultural problem? Explain that.
Well, thanks for asking. I think the mass media has a huge influence on, you know, who we are, you know, how we talk, what we like, a lifestyle, everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think all these shows and
well, listen, if people are, I understand what you're saying, and I don't necessarily disagree with you, but if people are going to be swayed in their life by some show they watch, like, for example, if you watch OAN or Newsmax, you think Donald Trump is the next Messiah, and he won the 2020 election, people can be brainwashed, David, right? I mean, people watch their listen, you've dealt with the media for a long when you're the DA, you have to do a lot of interviews. If you have a high-profile case, you're speaking to the media. You've dealt with the media a lot. What are your thoughts on where the media is today?
You know, I believe that the media is the eyes and ears of those people who can't be on the inside. You know, as the district attorney, I felt that it was my obligation to speak to the media and explain the things that I do and the reasons why, so that they can share it with the public. And the same can be said on a national level. And it's for people to listen to the media, listen to both sides, and come up with their own decision.
Sure.
And so I don't blame the media. If people seem to be swayed by the media, then they have to give some thought to the way they process information.
I agree with you. I think the media, though, does have a responsibility to not intentionally lie, whether it be about an election or misinformation or attacking somebody when you know it's falsified information, if that makes sense. There's always going to be like opinionated shows. There's a difference between a journalist and then an after 5 p.m. talk show, right? Everybody's entitled to their opinion, right? But misinformation, knowingly putting out misinformation, can be dangerous, right? Should there be some criminal liability, do you think, for that?
It's a very difficult thing to prove. Everybody has opinions. Journalists have ethics, and I know, people go, ha ha ha, journalists have ethics. It's just like me saying that, attorneys have ethical
Right.
rules that they have to stand by. But, it really depends on the evidence.
Sure, fair enough. 702-221-7283 is the number to call if you would like to be a part of the conversation. All right, let's go to the next caller. Let's go to Al. Al is next on PTL. Hey, Al, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Did we lose you, Al? I think we just lost Al. Sorry, Al. I guess we didn't take your call after all. Call back, Al, 702-221-7283. Let's go to Joseph. Joseph is next on PTL. What's up, Joseph?
Yeah, hey, Brian.
Hey.
All right, here's my piece. Hearing everything, I believe there are good cops out there as long as you got internal affairs, but the only problem is there might be some people in internal affairs who might let the bad cops get away with everything. And also, after seeing your previous episodes of your show, I do agree about Mark Robinson. He's not fit to be governor for North Carolina because the way he looks, he's trying to be like Donald Trump, just judging from all that Diet Coke and Big Macs.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is that, boy, I'm glad we don't have any politicians in this state like that. But when you have somebody who openly says that they're a black Nazi and the Republican Party is still standing by them, I think that is a problem to have. Thank you for the call, Joe. I guess these are the times we're living in, David. I don't know. It's bizarro world. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Charles. I believe Charles is next up on PTL. Hi, Charles. You're on with David Roger. Go right ahead.
Hey, Brian. Thanks for taking the call, but I'm not a first-time caller. I appreciate what you guys do.
Thank you.
I just wanted to hit a two-pronged question for your guest.
Sure.
And because he's a legal scholar, I'm sure he will back me up on the validity and truth on this. So there was a quote from Chief Justice Warren Burger, and I will read it. It says, "The gun lobby's interpretation of the Second Amendment is one of the greatest pieces of fraud. I repeat the word fraud on the American people by special interest groups that I've ever seen in my lifetime." And so my question is for Dave, do you think that the Second Amendment has somewhat been contorted to fit the desires of what the NRA and its supporters believe it should be compared on how it was written in the Constitution?
Very good question. What do you say to that, David?
I wish I was a legal scholar that I could give you an informed opinion. But, the courts, have the final say on the right to bear arms. The U.S. Supreme Court has recognized that it's not just a militia, and that citizens have a right to bear arms. And I think that if both sides of the aisle could come together, whether it's a gun control or other hot-button issues, we could come to a resolution. The problem that I see is both sides are unwilling to give because they feel that if they give an inch, the other side is going to take a mile, and we're just not there as a country yet.
Agree. All right, let's get back to Al, 702-221-7283. We accidentally hung up on
Hey,
Al. Sorry about that, Al.
Yeah,
Go
I don't
right
know
ahead.
what happened. Hey, listen, so this is a fantastic topic. I want to be very serious and mature about this situation, but I know Kevin McMahon. I'm friends with him. I got here 7 years ago. He ran for office. I told him, listen, you know what? I didn't know that you could elect a sheriff. I will help you, help with the minority community here. I don't want us to end up like LA County. And I do believe that when people look at law enforcement, you got to look at the county you're in, because I've lived in Orange County, Newport for 38 years, very safe county. Irvine City has designated the safest county by FBI for violent crime. And the formula is the community, the law enforcement, the DA, and the judges basically all have to work together. So here in Clark County, we have 3 organizations. One of them is the Black Outreach Community, which is part of Kevin McMahon's Metro. We have one for the Latino community and one for the Arts District. And I think it's a lot safer here. I don't think we're going to become LA County. But for those of you that are complaining about the police department, you got to take into consideration what county you're in and what type of sheriff you have.
Can I add something? I want
to
to add something quick to that. I think David would agree with me on this. Considering just Las Vegas alone, the 24/7 lifestyle, I think it's a pretty safe community considering the fact of all the tourism we have here and the convenience of this town, right, David? I mean, I think there are always going to be bad patches, but I think the crime could be far worse, and I'm glad it's not.
Yes, what people don't realize, or some people don't realize, is that we're not just 2.2 million people population. We're over 40 million because we have 38 point whatever million people come to Las Vegas every year, and we're responsible for their safety. And I think that I know that you're right because I look at San Francisco, a beautiful city, and people have their cars broken into in broad daylight, and I think it's part law enforcement and part lawmakers who are responsible. I think that although we have pockets or we have times where crime is up in Clark County, I think that overall we still have a pretty safe community.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think for the most part, law enforcement, particularly here in Las Vegas, where I've lived for over 20 years, do a phenomenal job. And for the most part, I feel safe in just about every part of Las Vegas that I've been in. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Armando. Armando is next. Hi, Armando. You're on with David Roger. Go right ahead.
Hello, Mr. Shapiro. I watch you on YouTube all the time.
Oh, thank you.
I'm a 76-year-old senior citizen, Vietnam veteran, combat Vietnam veteran, disabled.
Thank you. Thank you for
and
your
I
service.
watch you all the time, and I really admire people like you that say it like it is when you talk to these crazy MAGAs. I think there should be more people like you that come out on YouTube instead of defending these crazy people.
I greatly am humbled, and I appreciate your kind words. I will also say I admire you, sir, for being a hero, and I know David would agree with me with that sentiment. Thank you for serving this country. Without people like you, I wouldn't be able to be an idiot and talk on the radio every day, so I appreciate you. And I also, again, appreciate people like David. David was a great DA here, and he's not swinging far on one side or the other, which is we need more people like him in powerful positions. Don't you think, David? There's too many people, in my opinion, in powerful positions in this country that swing too far one way to the other, and there's going to be a lot of unhappy people, right?
Yeah, I'm somewhat cynical when it comes to politicians.
Yeah.
I think there are some people who are doing their very best for their community, for their country, and others who are not. And that's the unfortunate part of our political process. But we still have the right to vote, and we can control that or have a say in it.
There are so many good people like David that work so hard every day and dedicate themselves to rule of law. And the attacks on our DOJ and the attacks two-tier justice system, those comments sicken me. Doesn't mean that it's perfect. Doesn't mean that some people might do things for political purposes, but just like police officers, the overwhelming majority of these people in David's business and law enforcement are good, hardworking Americans that care about this country, just like you, sir. So thank you for your service. You're a hero.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your service.
Well, you keep on doing it.
Thank you,
I really
sir.
admire you. Thank you very much for coming on the air and speaking the truth.
As long as I have,
God bless you.
As long as I have people like you listening, you're damn sure I'm going to keep doing this. David, thank you so much for being here, by the way. This is the first time I've ever met you. I've actually interviewed you over the phone years ago when I was a reporter, believe it or not. But I really do appreciate you being here, and you're a good man, and you were a really a fantastic DA. And trust me, I don't say that about everybody. So very fair, and I appreciate you answering questions. And how can people, if people want to learn more about you, where would they go to learn a little bit more about you?
Google.
Google. That's the best way, right? I don't know what happens when people Google me. I don't know. It might be good or bad. But we need more people like you in office. We really do. So thank you, David, for being here. It's a pleasure. And thank you for what you do with your work. The work you do with the Las Vegas police here is second to none. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'd love to do it again with you sometime. All right, everybody. That's a wrap. I ask all of you to please check out my website if you want. Sorry for the technical difficulties we've had earlier. We'll try to fix that for tomorrow. We had some technical difficulties earlier in the program. It's a rarity, but it does happen from time to time. Please check out my website, pushingthelimits.live. Again, that website, pushingthelimits.live, where you can subscribe to my YouTube page at PTL Radio Show. You can buy merchandise on there. If you don't want merchandise, there's a donate button on there. So please check that out, pushingthelimits.live. I believe we have Brian Tyler Cohen on the show tomorrow. We have Don Lemon, formerly of CNN, that's going to be joining us on the show Wednesday. Lev Parnas, Anna Braga is going to be joining us in studio Thursday. So a lot to look forward to there. I appreciate all of you for joining us. Check me out on YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube page at PTL Radio Show, X at PTL Radio Show, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie?